The streetlight flickered just as Naomi's stepmother shoved her into the alley. Hard. So hard her knees scraped the concrete. "Stay out here. You don't exist anymore," the woman hissed before slamming the limousine door and leaving Naomi alone in the cold Atlanta night, still wearing the same designer coat she was born rich in. Naomi pressed her hand against her cheek, shaking, humiliated, and already freezing. She had no phone, no bag, no safe place to run. Just the bitter truth that the people who were supposed to protect her had thrown her out like trash. And she didn't even know that in less than an hour, someone powerful would stop his car, look right at her, and change everything. Before we go deeper into this mess, hit subscribe, drop where you're watching from, tell me the time right now, and leave a comment because you're not ready for what happens next. Naomi stayed curled against the alley wall long after the limousine disappeared down Peachtree Street. Cold air slipped through her coat like needles, biting at her skin. Every sound made her flinch. The rustle of trash bags, a distant siren, footsteps echoing somewhere she couldn't see. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to calm the trembling that never seemed to stop. Hours ago, she'd been in a mansion surrounded by chandeliers and staff who couldn't speak to her unless spoken to. Now she was sitting behind a grocery store, hiding like a criminal in a city where her last name once meant power. Her stepmother's voice still rang in her ears. "You don't exist anymore." Naomi squeezed her eyes shut, trying to breathe through the panic rising in her chest. She pressed her forehead to her knees, whispering to herself like she used to when she was younger and scared of the dark. "You're okay. You just have to make it to morning." But even she didn't believe that. Her fingers brushed the inside of her coat pocket and felt the cold metal of her father's bracelet, the only thing she grabbed before being dragged out of the house. She held it tight, the engraving of Carter pressing against her skin. It hurt to remember him. It hurt more to remember what happened after he died. A sound drifted into the alley, tires crunching against gravel. Not fast, not careless. Slow, controlled, expensive. Naomi lifted her head just as a large black SUV rolled past the mouth of the alley, its headlights sweeping across her like a spotlight. She pulled her coat tighter, hoping the darkness would swallow her again. It didn't. The SUV slowed, stopped, reversed. Her heart pounded so loud she swore the entire street could hear it. She edged back until her spine hit the brick wall. The window lowered. A man's voice, deep, calm, and far too steady for a place like this, reached her. "Are you all right?" Naomi didn't answer. People asking questions had never helped her. People saying kind things had always turned cruel later. Silence was safer. Silence was protection. But the man didn't leave. He stepped out. He didn't move fast or try to corner her. He just stood there under the streetlight, hands visible, posture relaxed, as if he wasn't a stranger finding a girl at midnight behind a grocery store. Naomi finally looked up at him. The first thing she noticed was his coat. Long, heavy, tailored. The kind worn by someone who never checked a price tag. His shoes were the same. His watch glimmered even in the dim light. Everything about him said money. Everything about her said she didn't belong anywhere near him. He took one step closer, then stopped again, giving her space. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said softly. "You look cold. Do you need help?" Naomi swallowed hard. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Please don't call anyone." That made him study her more closely. Not with suspicion, but concern. Like he was trying to understand what had happened to her, why she was here, why she looked like she'd been running for her life. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then shook her head. "No name. Just leave me alone." But the shaking in her hands gave her away. The way she winced when she shifted on the concrete. The way she kept glancing toward the street like she expected someone else to show up any second. He crouched down slowly so he wasn't towering over her. "You don't have to tell me anything," he said. "At least let me get you out of the cold." Naomi opened her mouth, but the words never came. A wave of dizziness struck her so fast she didn't get the chance to fight it. Her vision blurred, the alley spinning as her body gave up after hours of fear, hunger, and humiliation. The last thing she saw was the stranger reaching out to catch her before she hit the ground. And for the first time in days, she stopped fighting. Naomi woke to warmth, soft, steady warmth. For a moment she thought she was dreaming, because the last thing she remembered was cold concrete, her stepmother's words, and a stranger's face coming into focus as everything went dark. Her eyes fluttered open. A dim light glowed overhead. She felt something plush beneath her. A couch, not a bed, but softer than anything she'd touched in days. The room around her was quiet, too quiet. No footsteps, no slamming doors, no whispers plotting her disappearance. Just silence. Naomi sat up too fast, clutching her coat to her chest as if it were armor. Her breath hitched. She wasn't outside anymore. She was in a living room, modern, sleek, with floor-to-ceiling windows looking over Atlanta's skyline. The city lights blinked back at her like scattered stars. This wasn't a hospital, or a shelter, or anything broken or used. This was money. Real money. Her pulse spiked. Before she could stand, she heard movement behind her. A door opening. Measured footsteps crossing hardwood floors. The man from the alley stepped into view, carrying a mug. He didn't look like someone who picked up strangers off the street. He looked like someone who owned the building the street ran through. Dark hair, calm eyes, clothes that fit too perfectly to be anything but custom. As if he had stepped out of a boardroom and into a nightmare. He stopped a few feet away. "You're awake," he said gently. "Good." Naomi pulled her knees close to her chest. "Where am I?" "My penthouse." He gestured to the view behind her. "Buckhead. You fainted. I brought you here so you wouldn't freeze in that alley." She stared at him, unsure if gratitude or fear should win. "You shouldn't have," she murmured. "I told you to leave me alone." "And I ignored you," he said plainly. "You were shaking, bruised, and terrified." "I wasn't going to drive away." She didn't know how to respond to that. Kindness wasn't something she trusted anymore. He set the mug on the table beside her. "Tea. Nothing else. You can smell it if you're scared I put something in it." Her cheeks warmed from embarrassment. Not because she doubted him, but because he noticed her hesitation so easily. She picked up the mug anyway. It was warm, her fingers curled around it like it was the last safe thing in the world. He nodded slightly. "Good. Keep drinking. You look like you haven't slept in days." Naomi didn't correct him. She didn't need to. He walked over to the far side of the room and leaned against the counter, giving her space again. Everything he did was careful, controlled, like he understood she was close to breaking. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. She swallowed. Just Naomi." "Last name?" Her grip tightened around the mug. Her voice wavered. I can't say." That made his eyes narrow, not in anger but curiosity. He studied her like she was a puzzle missing all the important pieces. "All right," he said finally. "You don't have to tell me. Not yet." Naomi looked down, ashamed. She didn't want him thinking she was ungrateful, or dangerous, or unstable. 3 labels she had been force-fed for months. He continued. "Do you have somewhere to go in the morning?" Her throat closed. Home wasn't home anymore. Family wasn't family. Safety was a memory she could barely recall. She shook her head. "No. No friends? No one you trust?" Another shake of her head. He let out a slow breath, as if weighing his next move carefully. "Then stay the night," he said. "Just the night. I won't ask questions you don't want to answer." She stared at him, confused. "Why help me?" she whispered. "You don't even know me." He paused, eyes steady on hers. "You looked like someone who hasn't been helped in a very long time." The words hit harder than anything her stepmother ever threw at her. Naomi blinked fast, trying to keep the tears from spilling. She hated crying in front of people. It made her feel small, fragile, things her stepmother used to punish her for. The man seemed to notice the shift in her breathing. He stayed where he was, giving her the dignity of distance. What time is it? She asked softly. Almost 2 a.m. Her heart raced. She'd lasted another day. Barely. Sleep, he said. I'll be in the next room. You're safe here. No one will come through that door unless I let them. She didn't know why she believed him. Maybe because she wanted to. Maybe because he said it with a certainty that reminded her of her father before everything fell apart. Naomi lay back slowly, pulling the blanket over herself. The couch felt like a cloud compared to the freezing concrete she'd been on hours earlier. But safety. Safety felt like a lie her body didn't trust yet. She closed her eyes anyway. The last thing she heard before drifting off was the sound of the stranger walking away and locking the door behind him. Not to trap her, to protect her. And she had no idea how much danger she'd really brought into his life. Naomi woke to the smell of something warm. Coffee, maybe, and the faint sound of someone moving in the kitchen. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. The soft blanket, the polished floors, the distant hum of appliances. None of it belonged to her world. Then her eyes landed on the skyline glowing through the windows. Right. The stranger. The penthouse. The night she collapsed in the alley. She sat up slowly, her body stiff from days of running. Her mind scrambled to put walls back before panic could get in. Before she could stand, he entered the room again. The man from last night. Tall, controlled, a presence that filled the space without trying. He placed a folded sweatshirt and sweatpants on the arm of the couch. These might be a little big, he said, but they're clean. Naomi stared at the clothes. No one had offered her anything without a price in a long time. Thank you, she murmured. He nodded once. No questions, no pressure. That unsettled her more than anything. She clutched the blanket tighter. Did I say anything when I passed out? You said, don't let them find me. His voice softened. Who's looking for you? Naomi dropped her gaze. Doesn't matter. It does if they're dangerous. She said nothing. He watched her closely, not as a threat, but as someone trying to understand a story he wasn't being allowed to read. He stepped closer, stopping at a respectful distance. I didn't get your name, he said. She hesitated, but lying felt pointless. Naomi. He waited for her to continue, but she didn't. Naomi, he repeated quietly, like he was committing it to memory. I'm Braylon. She lifted her head. Braylon. Strong name. Sharp edges softened by the way he said it. I didn't mean to cause trouble, she whispered. I'll leave. I shouldn't be here. Braylon folded his arms, almost amused by the idea. You can barely stand. You're not going anywhere. She stiffened. Then I'm a problem. You're not a problem, he said, not missing a beat. You're a person who needs help, and I'm someone who can offer it. That's all. Her throat tightened. She wasn't used to kindness spoken so plainly. She looked toward the door. What if someone comes looking for me? She whispered. Braylon followed her gaze, then simply said, They won't get past me. Something in his tone, calm, absolute, made her believe him, made her want to believe him. He reached for a small paper bag on the counter. I brought breakfast, he said. It's not much, just something from downstairs. He handed her the bag, and her fingers trembled when she opened it. A plain croissant, a small cup of fruit. Nothing extravagant, nothing intimidating, normal. Soft, kind. She took a small bite, then froze, embarrassed by how hungry she was. Braylon pretended not to notice the way she ate as if she hadn't eaten in days. When she finally slowed down, he leaned against the wall across from her. You were outside in the freezing cold, alone, scared. That doesn't happen for no reason. Naomi's chest tightened. She wanted to tell him everything. She wanted him to stop asking. Both desires fought inside her, leaving her stranded in the middle. He continued, voice steady. I won't push. When you're ready, you'll talk. That made her look up. Why do you care? She whispered. Braylon held her gaze for a long moment. Because last night, you looked at me like no one had looked at you in a long time. He exhaled slowly, like you didn't expect anyone to choose your side. Naomi swallowed hard. Her eyes burned. I don't have a side, she whispered. Braylon's expression grew unreadable. Everyone has a side, he said quietly. Some people just have the wrong ones fighting them. Naomi looked away, gripping the blanket so tightly her knuckles turned white. She didn't trust herself to speak. A faint buzzing sound filled the room. Braylon pulled his phone from his pocket. A message, short, unexpected. His jaw tightened for the first time since she'd met him. Naomi noticed instantly. What is it? He slipped the phone back into his pocket. Nothing, he said, but his voice betrayed him. She shifted uneasily. You can tell me. He hesitated. Just a second, barely noticeable. Someone asked if I saw a girl last night, he finally said. Her blood ran cold. Did they describe her? Her voice shook. Braylon stepped closer. Eyes locked on hers. Yes, he said. They did. Naomi's breath caught in her throat. And Naomi? His voice dropped lower, controlled, protective. They weren't asking because they wanted to help you. Naomi's fingers went numb, not from the cold, but from the fear she'd been trying to outrun for days. Her voice barely made it out. What did they say? Braylon didn't answer right away. He walked toward the massive window overlooking the city, the early morning sun catching the edge of his watch. He looked like someone who made heavy decisions before breakfast. Someone used to control. Someone who rarely got blindsided. But Naomi had shaken something in him. He turned back to her. They described you, he said quietly. Your coat, your hair, even the bracelet I found in your pocket. Naomi's hand shot to her coat instinctively, gripping the fabric where the bracelet had been hidden. Her pulse hammered against her ribs. They didn't use your name, he continued, but they were very interested in where you might be. Naomi's breath came fast, shallow. Who asked? A man named Marcus Hale. Her whole body went still. No flinch, no gasp, just stillness. Braylon noticed. You know him. Naomi nodded once, trembling. He's my stepmother's business partner. Braylon's jaw tightened. I knew it, he muttered. Something about that call felt off. Naomi scrambled to her feet, panic unraveling inside her. I have to leave, right now. I can't be here. I can't pull you into this. Braylon stepped in front of her before she reached the door. Not aggressive, not forceful, just solid enough to block her path. You're in no condition to go anywhere. I can't stay, her voice cracked. You don't understand. She'll find me. She always does. And when she does... Her throat closed. Words refused to form. Terror did the speaking. Braylon's gaze softened. Sit down. No, she whispered. Naomi, he said calmly. I'm not asking. Something in his tone, steady, unshakable, slipped past her panic and caught hold of her. Not dominance. Not control. Just someone who refused to let fear make the decisions. She sat. Barely. Her legs gave out more than she chose to. Braylon crouched in front of her. Tell me what's going on. Naomi shut her eyes. If she told him, if she dragged him in, it would ruin him too. I can't, she whispered. I promised myself I wouldn't tell anyone. It's too dangerous. Braylon tilted his head slightly. Dangerous for who? You? Or the people looking for you? She didn't answer. He exhaled slowly, as if calculating a dozen things at once. Fine, he said. Then I'll ask something else. His eyes locked onto hers. Why did your stepmother throw you out? Naomi's chest tightened. All I have is one night, she whispered. One night before they force me out of the picture permanently. Braylon froze. Permanently. He understood what she meant. "Explain," he said, voice low. Naomi's breath trembled. She pressed her hand to her chest, trying to steady the shaking. "My father." She swallowed hard. "When he died, everything changed. My stepmother took control of the entire Carter estate. She said I wasn't fit to manage anything. She said I was unstable, emotional, unpredictable." Braylon's eyes darkened. He'd heard that tactic before. Label the victim. Take their power. Naomi continued, voice cracking. "She forged documents, medical records. She had lawyers ready to put me under a conservatorship." Tears welled in her eyes. "I tried to confront her. She told me if I ever stepped foot in the house again, she'd make sure I disappeared. And then—" She reached into her coat and pulled out the broken bracelet. "This," she whispered. "It was my father's. I grabbed it and ran. I didn't have time to take anything else." Braylon stared at the bracelet. Recognition flickered in his eyes, but he said nothing. Naomi wiped her face with her sleeve, ashamed to be crying. "She has people everywhere," Naomi said. "Security, lawyers, friends in high places. And Marcus—" Her voice dropped. "He's worse. He wants the company for himself. He told her they just need me out of the way." Quietly, Braylon stood slowly. Then he walked across the room, grabbed his car keys, a jacket, and a phone charger, and returned. "Get up," he said. Naomi looked confused, terrified. "Where?" "We're leaving." Her breath caught in her throat. "Leaving? To where?" "Somewhere they can't find you." She shook her head violently. "Braylon, I can't ask you." "You didn't ask," he said. "I decided." He held out his hand. Naomi stared at it. Warm, steady, offered without conditions. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. Braylon's expression didn't change. "Because someone needs to choose your side," he said. "And right now, that someone is me." Naomi felt her knees weaken again. Not from fear, not from exhaustion, from the terrifying relief of being believed. She slipped her hand into his. Braylon closed his fingers around hers, firm, protective, and led her out the door. Naomi didn't know it yet, but stepping into that elevator with him would change everything. The elevator descended with a soft hum, but the air between Naomi and Braylon felt thick, too thick for someone who had known him less than a day. She held onto his sleeve like it was a lifeline, afraid that letting go would pull her back into the nightmare she'd escaped. When the doors opened into the dimly lit parking garage, Braylon scanned the area with practiced precision. Not paranoia, experience. He placed a hand gently at the small of her back. Not pushing, not guiding, just reassuring. "Stay close," he murmured. Naomi followed him to a dark SUV parked near the exit. He opened the passenger door and waited for her to climb in. Her fingers trembled as she buckled the seatbelt. Braylon rounded the car, slid into the driver's seat, and locked the doors before pulling out. They rode in silence at first, the city lights streaking past them like blurred memories Naomi couldn't piece together anymore. Finally, her voice broke the quiet. "Where are we going?" "To my lake house," Braylon replied. "Outside Marietta. No one knows I'm taking you there. No one knows you exist to me. That's the point." Naomi stared out the window. The farther they drove from the city, the more her shoulders began to relax. But every time she exhaled, a wave of fear followed. She'd been too close to being caught too many times to trust peace. After 30 minutes, Braylon spoke again, his tone thoughtful. "Why didn't you go to the police?" Naomi let out a bitter, humorless breath. "Marcus Hale has half of them on his payroll. My stepmother has the other half. Anyone I would have told would have taken me straight back to her." Braylon's knuckles tightened around the steering wheel. "I figured it was something like that." "How?" "Because the first time I saw you," he said softly, "you didn't act like someone running from a fight." He glanced at her. "You acted like someone running from a trap." A shiver ran through Naomi. He understood more than she expected, more than anyone ever had. The SUV turned down a narrow, tree-lined road. The world grew darker, quieter, safer. A few minutes later, they parked in front of a secluded lake house, a modern structure of glass and wood, standing alone by the water. The moon lit the surface of the lake in silver ripples. Braylon stepped out first, checked the surroundings with the same sharpness she'd seen earlier, then opened her door.
"This is yours?"
Naomi whispered, stepping out onto the gravel. "Part of it," he said. "I come here when I need to disappear." She looked around slowly, taking in the stillness, the privacy, the way the world felt far away. "It's beautiful," she murmured. "It's quiet," he corrected. "And that's what you need right now." He unlocked the front door and held it open for her. Inside, the house was warm, dimly lit, and inviting in a way Naomi didn't expect from someone who looked like he lived in boardrooms. She walked in carefully, afraid to touch anything. Braylon set a blanket over the sofa, then motioned toward the small guest room. "You can sleep there tonight," he said. "Bathroom's through the door on the right. There are clothes inside if you want to change." Naomi hesitated near the doorway. "Braylon?" Her voice was small, fragile. He paused. "What is it?" "Why are you still helping me?" she whispered. "You barely know me. You owe me nothing." Braylon's gaze softened in a way she'd never seen from him. Not sympathetic, not emotional, but something deeper, something steady. "You were alone in the middle of the night, terrified, and still trying to protect yourself," he said. "No one deserves to face that alone. I won't let fear swallow you." Naomi swallowed hard, fighting the sting in her eyes. Before she could respond, Braylon's phone vibrated. He checked the screen. His expression darkened. Naomi's heart dropped. "What happened?" He showed her the message quietly. "Unknown number. Wrong move, Pierce. The girl belongs to us." Naomi's breath caught. Her knees weakened. Braylon stepped toward her immediately, steadying her with a hand on her arm. "You're safe here," he said, voice low and certain. "I won't let them touch you." Naomi pressed a trembling hand over her mouth. Guilt flooded her. "You shouldn't have gotten involved," she whispered. Braylon's eyes hardened, the softness replaced by a steel she hadn't seen before. "I was involved the moment I stopped that car." Naomi felt her chest tighten, but not from fear this time, from the terrifying realization that someone finally cared enough to stand beside her. "Try to sleep," he said quietly. "We'll figure this out in the morning." She nodded weakly and stepped into the guest room. The door clicked softly behind her. Naomi slid down against it, burying her face in her hands. For the first time in weeks, she felt a sliver of safety, a fragile one that could shatter at any moment. But she also sensed something else, a shift. A turning point. Because Braylon Pierce didn't just offer safety, he offered a fight. A fight she wasn't sure she deserved, but desperately needed. Naomi barely slept. Every time she drifted off, she jolted awake, hearing footsteps that weren't there, seeing shadows that weren't real. Her mind replayed every moment of the last week, every threat, every lie her stepmother whispered as if it were truth. By sunrise, her eyes burned, and her body felt weightless from exhaustion. She slipped out of the guest room quietly, hoping not to wake Braylon. She didn't want him to see how broken she looked. But he was already awake. She found him sitting at the kitchen counter, scrolling through something on his phone with a look she hadn't seen before. Hard. Calculating. Furious. He glanced up when she stepped in. "Morning," he said. His voice was calm, but his jaw was tight. "Sit. You need food." Naomi obeyed silently. He slid a plate toward her. Toast, eggs, fruit. Simple. Warm. Something she hadn't had in days. As she ate, Braylon placed his phone on the table between them. The screen showed a headline. "Breaking. Carter Heiress missing for 3 days. Stepmother releases statement." Naomi froze. Her stepmother's face filled the screen. Perfect makeup, diamonds, crocodile tears. "We are deeply worried about Naomi's mental state. Vivian said to reporters. "She has been struggling since my husband's passing. If anyone sees her, please contact authorities immediately. She is unstable and needs help." Naomi's fork slipped from her hand and clattered onto the plate. "That's not—" She choked on her words. "That's not true." "I know," Braylon said. "She's lying," Naomi whispered. "She's always lying." Braylon turned the phone off and set it aside. "That's not all," he said. "Marcus Hale made a statement too." Naomi tensed. "He said you stole confidential corporate documents," Braylon continued. "He's painting you as a threat to the Carter empire." Naomi pressed a shaking hand to her chest. No, I didn't take anything. I didn't steal anything." "I believe you," Braylon said immediately. The conviction in his voice almost broke her. She swallowed hard. "Then why say it?" Braylon leaned forward, elbows on the counter. "Because you must have seen something," he said. "Something they don't want exposed." Naomi's breath hitched. She hadn't told him yet. She hadn't told anyone. But she couldn't run from it forever. "I did see something," she whispered. Her voice trembled. "I saw them. Vivian and Marcus." "In my father's office. They were arguing about the inheritance, the board, something about a merger that my father canceled before he died." She closed her eyes for a moment, the memory slicing into her chest like a blade. "Vivian said I was in the way. She said once I signed the papers, the company would be theirs." A tear slipped down her cheek. "I told her I wasn't signing anything. She told Marcus to handle me." Braylon's fists tightened so hard his knuckles whitened. Naomi continued, voice cracking. "I ran to my room, locked the door, grabbed my father's bracelet, and climbed out the window. I didn't have time to think. I just—" She sucked in a shaky breath. "I knew if they got me alone, I'd never be seen again." Braylon stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. He paced once, twice, then stopped and faced her. "You're telling me," he said slowly, "that your stepmother and Marcus Hale tried to force you out of your own inheritance?" Naomi nodded weakly. "And they want you declared incompetent so they can take everything?" She nodded again. Braylon's gaze burned with a fury she'd only seen in men who fought battles most people didn't survive. "Naomi," he inhaled sharply. "There's something I haven't told you." Her heart dropped. "What?" He reached into the drawer beneath the counter, pulled out a folder, and placed it in front of her. Her father's name was on the tab. Naomi blinked. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside were old documents, contracts, partnership proposals, investment plans. Her father's signature, Braylon's father's signature. Her breath stopped. "This," she whispered, "this is—" "A business alliance," Braylon said quietly. "Our fathers worked together. They planned to merge part of their companies years ago." He paused. "Through us." Naomi's eyes widened. "What does that mean?" Braylon exhaled slowly. "It means I knew who you were the moment I saw your bracelet." She stared at him, shocked. "You recognized me?" "I recognized your father's name," he said. "And when I saw your face in the light, yes, I knew you were Naomi Carter." Naomi's shoulders shook. "You knew who I was? And you still helped me?" Braylon stepped toward her. "I didn't help you because you're a Carter," he said softly. "I helped you because you were alone, cold, terrified, and because—" He hesitated, struggling for words he didn't want to say. "Because someone should have helped you long before I did." Naomi covered her mouth with her hand, trying not to sob. Braylon reached for the chair beside her and sat down. "There's something else," he said. "Something important." Naomi looked up through tears. "What?" Braylon's voice hardened. "Marcus Hale was my father's rival. Bitter, obsessed. He swore he'd take everything my family built." He held Naomi's gaze. And now he's trying to take yours. Naomi felt the world tilt. The trap she'd been running from wasn't just personal. It was strategic, calculated, generational. Vivian wasn't working alone. Marcus Hale hadn't just wanted the Carter Empire. He'd wanted both their families. Braylon's voice dropped to a low, dangerous whisper. And now that you're with me, he won't stop until he destroys us both. Naomi didn't realize she'd been holding her breath until her chest finally ached. Braylon's words hung in the air like a storm cloud refusing to move. Marcus wanted to destroy them both. Not just her inheritance, not just her life, but him. Braylon Pierce, too. She sat back slowly, fingers trembling against the edge of the table. "Why would he come after you?" she whispered. Braylon's eyes didn't flinch from hers. "Because taking what belongs to a Pierce has always been his obsession." The silence that followed was heavy, but not suffocating, like the truth had been waiting to be spoken for a long time. Naomi pushed the folder away, shaking her head. "This is too much. I don't want you caught in the middle of my mess." Braylon sighed deeply, not annoyed, just tired of her trying to run from help. "It stopped being your mess the moment I answered that phone call." His voice hardened. "Marcus has had it out for my family for years. You didn't drag me into anything." He was already waiting for the smallest excuse. Naomi swallowed hard, overwhelmed. Braylon noticed. He stood from the table, walked to the counter, grabbed 2 keys, and held one out toward her. "Come on," he said. "You need air." She blinked. "Air? You look like you're about to faint again, and if you faint in my kitchen, I'm not catching you this time." A small, surprised laugh escaped her. It wasn't full. It wasn't happy. But it was something. She followed him out of the house, hugging her coat tighter. The morning sun was beginning to rise over the lake, painting everything in soft gold. Braylon unlocked his truck and motioned for her to get in. She hesitated only once. "Is it safe?" He met her eyes. "It's me, Naomi. Get in." She did. They drove in silence for a few minutes, the trees blurring past in sleepy shades of green. Naomi expected him to take her somewhere hidden, far away, maybe a safe house or another private property. She didn't expect where they ended up. Braylon pulled into a small Waffle House parking lot just off the highway. Naomi stared at it in confusion. "This is where you're taking me?" Braylon shrugged. "You need food, real food, and I need coffee, strong coffee." Naomi wasn't used to places like this. She'd driven past them her whole life but had never seen one from inside. Her stepmother called them low class. Her father simply never said no to her stepmother. Inside, warm air, butter, and the sizzle of eggs on a grill wrapped around her like a blanket. 2 employees waved at Braylon as if they knew him well. "You're back early today," one of them said. "Rough night," Braylon answered. He didn't mention Naomi. He didn't say a word about why she looked worn out and scared. He just guided her to a booth in the corner, far from the windows, where no one could stare too long. Naomi slid into the seat and looked around. No crystal chandeliers, no marble floors, no people whispering behind manicured hands. Just regular folks eating breakfast, laughing, living, existing without fear. Naomi felt something strange in her chest. Relief, pain, something between the two. Braylon ordered for both of them. Eggs, waffles, toast, orange juice. When he handed Naomi her plate, she stared at the food like it was a foreign luxury. "You all right?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "I just haven't sat in a place like this before." Braylon smirked gently. "What? The great Naomi Carter has never tasted real food?" She lowered her eyes. "Vivian didn't like me going anywhere she couldn't control." His expression shifted instantly. Not pity, anger on her behalf. "Well," he said, leaning back, "she's not here." Naomi picked up her fork, took a small bite, and closed her eyes. Warm, sweet, comfort. The kind she had forgotten existed. Halfway through their meal, Naomi finally breathed out. "This feels normal," she whispered. Braylon nodded. That's the point. For the first time since she'd met him, Naomi studied him. He didn't look like the type of man who came to small restaurants at dawn, not with the way he dressed, not with the authority he carried, but the way everyone greeted him, the way he seemed at ease here. It softened something inside her. "You're not what I expected," she said quietly.
Braylon raised a brow. "Oh, really? And what did you expect?"
"I don't know," Naomi admitted. "Someone colder, someone who doesn't care, someone who sees a girl in trouble and drives away." Braylon looked at her for a long moment. "I drive away from trouble," he said. "Not from people." Naomi felt warmth flood her cheeks. He didn't flirt. He didn't say it to charm her. He said it because it was the truth, a truth she wasn't used to hearing. The servers brought the check, but before they could return to the front counter, Braylon slid a generous tip under the salt shaker. Naomi noticed. He didn't do it for show. He didn't look around to see if she saw him. It was simply who he was. As they stood and walked toward the exit, Naomi finally whispered, "Thank you for this." Braylon opened the door for her. "You're going to get a lot more than breakfast before this is over." Naomi stepped into the morning light. Only then did she realize something she hadn't felt in days. For a few minutes. She wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't terrified. She was just Naomi. And that was enough. But peace never lasts long when someone wants you gone. As Braylon unlocked the truck, Naomi's gaze drifted across the parking lot and froze. A camera lens, a click, a flash. Someone was taking photos of them. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She turned to Braylon, voice shaking. "Braylon, someone saw us." His face darkened instantly. He didn't ask who. He didn't ask why. He just opened her door and said quietly, urgently, "Get in the truck, now." The ride back to the lake house was nothing like the trip out. Braylon's jaw was tight, his grip on the wheel firmer than before. Naomi kept looking over her shoulder, convinced the photographer had followed them, convinced Marcus had already found her. Inside the truck, the air felt cold even with the heater on. Naomi finally whispered, "Braylon, what happens now?" He didn't answer right away. His mind was somewhere else, calculating, racing ahead, trying to outrun a threat he could feel closing in. When he spoke, it wasn't gentle. "That picture will be online by noon." Naomi stiffened. "Of us?" she whispered. "Yes. Then everyone will know I'm alive." Braylon nodded once, tight, controlled. "And everyone will know you're with me." Naomi covered her mouth with her hand. Her pulse throbbed against her throat. "They'll come for me," she whispered. "Vivian, Marcus, everyone." Braylon didn't deny it. Instead, he pulled into the driveway, parked the truck, and stepped out quickly, motioning for her to follow. Naomi ran to keep up with his stride. Inside, Braylon locked the door and checked the windows like a man who had done this before, who knew how fast danger traveled. Naomi stood near the couch, hugging her arms around herself. "What are we going to do?" she whispered. Braylon turned to her. "I talked to my attorney this morning." Naomi blinked. "About me?" "Yes," he said. "About how to protect you." She stared at him in disbelief. "But you barely know me." "I know enough." She swallowed hard. "What did they say?" Braylon hesitated, not because he doubted the advice, but because he knew how it would sound. "There's only one thing that gives you immediate legal protection," he said. Naomi waited, terrified, hopeful, unprepared. Braylon exhaled. "A spouse." Naomi's breath stopped. What?" "If we were married," he continued calmly, "no court can claim you're mentally unfit without involving me. They can't force you into a conservatorship. They can't take you. They can't touch your inheritance until a married signature is present. And Marcus can't file anything without it reaching my desk." Naomi stared at him like the world had tilted sideways. "Married?" she whispered. You mean actually, legally? Yes. Why would you even consider that? Why would you tie yourself to my nightmare? The answer came faster than she expected. Because you don't deserve to be hunted, Braylon said quietly. And because I won't let them destroy you. Her knees grew weak. But marriage? That's a life decision. Braylon shook his head. No, it's a protection decision. A legal shield, a contract. His voice was steady, practical, unemotional. But beneath it, something warmer. Something he wasn't saying. Naomi stepped back, breath trembling. You don't even know what you're asking. I'm not asking, he said gently. I'm offering. Silence fell between them. Heavy, shattering. Naomi wrapped her arms around herself, trying to hold her shaking body together. What if they come after you to get to me? Braylon didn't blink. Let them. She shook her head. What if this ruins your reputation? What if the media twists everything? What if people say I manipulated you into marrying me? They already think I make terrible choices, he said dryly. I can live with one more. Naomi bit her lip, trying not to cry. This is insane, she whispered. I know. Reckless. I know. It's too much. Braylon stepped closer, stopping just inches from her. You don't have to love me, he said quietly. You don't have to trust me fully. You don't have to pretend this is anything more than survival. He held her gaze. But you need protection, and I can give you that. Naomi's voice trembled. And what do you get? Braylon hesitated. Then he said the only honest thing he could. I get to do something right. Tears prickled behind her eyes. She looked away, breathing unsteadily. Braylon, I'm scared. I know, he whispered. That's why you shouldn't face this alone. Naomi pressed her palms against her eyes, shoulders shaking. Just for protection? She whispered. Nothing else? If you want nothing else, he answered. She lowered her hands slowly, looking into his eyes. There was no pressure there, no force. Just a steady offer held out to her like a lifeline she desperately needed. She took a shaky breath. Okay, she whispered. I'll do it. Braylon nodded once, relief hidden behind restraint. We'll leave in an hour. Naomi hesitated. One more thing, she whispered, voice breaking. Braylon looked at her, soft, attentive. Promise me, she said. Promise you won't leave me alone in this. Braylon stepped forward, and for the first time his guard cracked. Not much. Just enough for her to see the vow behind his eyes. I won't leave you, he said. Not now. Not ever. Naomi inhaled sharply. A decision had been made, a line crossed, a new danger created. But for the first time in her life, she didn't have to face it alone. The courthouse wedding took less than 10 minutes. No flowers. No music. No rings. Just 2 signatures and a judge who didn't ask questions because Braylon Pierce had that kind of presence. The kind that closed mouths and opened doors. Naomi stood beside him in a simple black coat, her hair pulled back, her eyes still swollen from yesterday. She didn't look like a bride. She looked like a girl holding on by a thread. But Braylon never let go of her hand. Not once. When the judge said, "You may leave," Naomi expected the world to stay quiet for at least an hour. 1 hour to breathe. 1 hour as a newly protected woman. She didn't even get 10 minutes. They stepped out of the courthouse doors, and a wall of flashing cameras erupted like fireworks. Questions flew at them instantly. Braylon, who is she? Are you really married? Is this the Carter heiress? Naomi, are you running from your family? Did you manipulate him into a secret wedding? Is this a scandal marriage? Naomi froze. Lights blinded her. Hands reached. Voices shouted. Cameras shoved forward. The world closed in. But Braylon stepped in front of her, shielding her body with his own. Move back, he ordered sharply. His voice cut through the chaos like ice. This is a private matter. The reporters didn't care. They pushed harder. One of them yelled, Naomi, your stepmother says you're mentally unstable. Are you being taken advantage of? Naomi stumbled at the words. Her lungs locked. The world blurred. She whispered, Braylon. He didn't hesitate. He wrapped an arm around her waist and pulled her against him. We're leaving, he muttered. 3 security guards, people Naomi didn't even see approaching, created a path through the crowd. Braylon kept her close the whole way to the car, shielding her from the frenzy. Only when the SUV doors slammed shut did Naomi manage to breathe again. Her hands shook uncontrollably. She hadn't expected the world to turn violent. Not like this, not so fast. Braylon didn't start the car immediately. He looked at her first. Take a breath, he said. His voice wasn't soft. It wasn't gentle. It was steady, like a hand pulling her out of quicksand. Naomi nodded, but her body wouldn't stop trembling. I didn't know it would be this bad, she whispered. It wouldn't have been, Braylon said, if someone hadn't leaked the story. Naomi's eyes widened. You think someone told them? Braylon stared straight ahead. I don't think, he said. I know. Back at the lake house, Naomi collapsed onto the couch. She felt hollow, like the cameras had stolen pieces of her she could never get back. Her phone buzzed with notifications, even though she didn't have a phone anymore. They were coming from Braylon's tablet on the table. He picked it up, brows tightening as he scrolled. Then he turned the screen toward her. A headline blared across every news outlet. Billionaire Braylon Pierce secretly marries missing Carter heiress. Stepmother claims manipulation and mental breakdown. Naomi's heart cracked. Vivian's statement was plastered under it. I fear Naomi doesn't understand what she's doing. She's confused and being taken advantage of by an older man with questionable motives. We only want her safe. 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 The word burned through Naomi's chest like acid. Braylon threw the tablet onto the couch. Enough, he muttered. She's lying, and she's good at it. Naomi covered her face with her hands. She felt exposed, humiliated, weaponized, and then a new voice entered the firestorm. A voice Naomi had hoped never to hear. Lydia Wynne, Braylon's ex-fiancée, the socialite, the princess of the Atlanta elite. Her video statement loaded instantly. Everyone knows Braylon and I were supposed to be married. This sudden wedding is shocking. I don't know who that girl is, but clearly he's being manipulated. The poor thing probably needs help, not a husband. Naomi flinched. Braylon stepped closer. Don't listen to her. She hates me, Naomi whispered. She doesn't know you. She hates the idea of me, Naomi corrected softly. Braylon's expression hardened. Then that's her problem. But Naomi's breathing grew shallow, because the comments under the video were worse. She looks homeless. She trapped him. Gold digger. Mental patient. This will end in divorce. Where's the proof she's stable? She looks scared. Maybe she's dangerous. Naomi shut her eyes tightly. Her world was collapsing again, this time in front of millions. Braylon crouched in front of her, lifting her chin gently. Naomi, look at me. She didn't want to, but she did. You are not what they say, he said. You are not what Marcus claims. You are not what Vivian paints you as. His voice lowered, steadier than the ground beneath her feet. You're my wife now, and no one hurts my wife. Her breath stuttered. Wife. The word felt surreal, heavy, terrifying, protective all at once. Braylon stood and paced once, then stopped like a man making a choice that would change everything. We can't stay here anymore, he said. They'll find this place. Naomi's heartbeat quickened. Where will we go? Braylon looked back at her. Somewhere no one will expect. Somewhere safe. Naomi rose slowly, still shaking. Braylon, what happens next? He took a long breath, the calm before the storm. Next, he said, Marcus makes his move. And when he does, his eyes turned cold. We'll be ready. They didn't wait long. Marcus Hale made his move faster than either of them expected. It started with a single message sent to Braylon's encrypted phone at midnight. A message that made his entire expression shift from controlled tension to something darker. Something Naomi hadn't seen in him yet. Braylon stared at the screen, jaw tightening. Naomi sat up in bed immediately. "What is it?" He didn't answer. He just handed her the phone. The message was short, too short. "Meet me, alone. You know where. Bring her, or I go to the board with everything." Naomi felt ice slice straight through her chest. "Braylon, you can't. I'm not letting him go to the board," he said, already grabbing his jacket. "Carter Global is hanging by a thread. If Marcus convinces them that you're unstable—" "I am unstable," Naomi said in a cracked whisper. Braylon turned sharply. "No," he said. "You're terrified. And you've been abused. That is not instability. That is survival." Naomi swallowed hard. "Where does he want to meet?" Braylon hesitated, just long enough to tell her the truth was worse than the message. "My father's old warehouse," he said quietly. "South of the city." Naomi's breath caught. "That place is abandoned. I know. And dangerous. I know. Then why would he—" "Because Marcus wants privacy," Braylon said. "He wants control, and he wants to show me something." Naomi felt her stomach drop. "Show you what?" Braylon didn't answer. He didn't have to. The warehouse sat like a forgotten skeleton on the outskirts of Atlanta. Rusted metal, broken windows, and a silence that felt designed. Naomi's hands shook as Braylon helped her out of the truck. The gravel crunched beneath their feet like brittle bones as they approached the entrance. Inside, the air was cold and smelled of metal and dust. Marcus stood in the center of the open floor, back to them, hands clasped behind him like he was admiring something only he could see. He turned slowly when he heard their steps. His smile was wrong, too smooth, too confident. "Ah," Marcus said. "The newlyweds." Naomi instinctively stepped closer to Braylon, and Marcus's smile widened, as if her fear pleased him. "I was wondering how long it would take you to show up, Braylon," he said. "You've always been predictable, noble, tedious." Braylon didn't respond. He simply scanned the room for threats, escape routes, shadows, movements. Years of dealing with corporate predators had sharpened instincts most people didn't see. Marcus held out a folder. "I brought an engagement gift," he said. "Wedding gifts are tacky, but this is history." Braylon didn't take the folder. Marcus opened it himself. Inside were photographs, newspapers, contracts, a paper trail that didn't look like a coincidence. He tossed the first page to the floor. Naomi froze when she saw the headline. Pierce Industries and Carter Global attempt merger, halted after internal dispute. Her father's name and Braylon's father's name were side by side. Marcus dropped another page. Carter Heir expected to play key role in family alliance. Naomi felt sick. She didn't know this. She had never been told this. Marcus paced slowly, savoring every second. "Funny, isn't it?" he said softly. "Your fathers planned a future for both of you. They talked merger, power, legacy. You were both supposed to inherit something far bigger than your companies." Braylon spoke through clenched teeth. "What are you getting at, Marcus?" Marcus chuckled. "That your marriage is not new. It's recycled." Naomi's heart stopped. "What?" Marcus turned to her with a look that made her skin crawl. "You don't know?" he asked. "Of course you don't. Your father was secretive. Manipulative, really. But I suppose all powerful men are." Braylon stepped between them instantly. "Marcus, say what you came to say." Marcus's grin sharpened. "The Carter-Pierce alliance wasn't just business," he said. "It was bloodline." Naomi's breath caught. "What do you mean?" Marcus tilted his head, studying her with sick amusement. "You were promised," he said, "before you were even old enough to spell your last name. Your father and Braylon's father agreed to merge families, assets, control." His smile widened. "Your marriage today? It's just the ghost of a contract they wrote decades ago." Naomi felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Her voice cracked. Braylon, did you know? Braylon closed his eyes for 1 second. 1 second too long. Marcus laughed. There it is. Your answer. Naomi stumbled backward, breath shaking. So you did know? Braylon turned to her immediately. Naomi, listen. No, she whispered, backing away. No. Tell me the truth. Did you know our fathers planned this? Braylon's voice was rough, pained. I knew pieces, bits. I didn't know the full extent. I didn't know the deal they made behind closed doors. Marcus stepped forward. Of course he did, he said. Why else would he marry you so fast? You're the last Carter standing, and he's the last Pierce with any integrity left. Naomi's tears threatened to spill. You knew I was a Carter before you helped me, she whispered. You helped me because of a business deal? Braylon shook his head fiercely. No, I helped you because you needed help. Marcus smirked. Believe what you want, Naomi. But the truth is simple. You didn't marry for protection. He leaned closer. You married into destiny, a destiny written long before either of you had a choice. Naomi stared at Braylon, betrayal and heartbreak twisting inside her. Braylon took a step toward her. Naomi, please, let me explain. What our fathers wanted has nothing to do with what I'm doing now. She stepped back. You should have told me. Marcus clapped once, mockingly. Touching, really. The two heirs trying to outrun a contract older than they are. Braylon ignored him. Naomi, he said softly, desperately. I did this for you, not them. Naomi wiped a tear with the back of her hand. Then why didn't you tell me the truth? Braylon opened his mouth, but Marcus interrupted with a cold, quiet sentence that froze the room. Because he needs you, Naomi. He always has. And he always will. Braylon's expression darkened further than Naomi thought possible. Marcus wasn't finished. And now, he said, I own the board. I own the narrative. And if you think marriage will protect her, Braylon, he smiled. You've forgotten who I am. Naomi's voice was barely a whisper. What do you want from us? Marcus's smile died. I want everything. They didn't speak the entire drive back. Not a word. Not even a breath shared between them. Braylon kept his eyes on the road, jaw tight, hands locked on the steering wheel like he was trying to hold together more than just the car. Naomi sat rigid beside him, staring out the window at the blur of trees and streetlights. She felt hollow, burned out, like the warehouse had taken something from her she couldn't name. Her chest ached in a way no wound could explain. When they finally reached the lake house, Braylon killed the engine and stepped out first, as if giving her space would fix something. It didn't. Naomi stayed seated, unable to move. She didn't want to cry. She didn't want to scream. She didn't want to be angry. She just wanted to breathe without it hurting. A moment later, Braylon opened her door. Naomi, he said softly. Come inside. His voice, usually calm, steady, was laced with something he rarely showed. Fear. Fear of losing her. Naomi stepped out, but not toward him. She walked past him, into the living room, then stopped in the center of the floor with her back to him. She didn't trust herself to face him yet. Braylon closed the door quietly. Say something, he murmured. She didn't turn around. Why didn't you tell me? Her voice cracked. Braylon swallowed. Because I didn't want you to think I helped you for the wrong reasons. But you did know, she whispered. You recognized me. You recognized my bracelet. Yes, he admitted. I did. And you didn't tell me. He stepped toward her, slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. I didn't hide it to manipulate you, he said softly. I hid it because you were terrified. You were shaking in that alley. I didn't want you to think I helped you because of your name. I helped you because you were alone. Naomi's eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink away. But it was still connected, she whispered. Our fathers.
The contract. The merger. You and me. Being promised. That was real?
Braylon exhaled sharply.
Not promised. Not to me. To our family's future. I never agreed to anything. I never met you.
I never intended. Naomi spun around suddenly.
Then why did Marcus say you needed me?
Braylon froze. Naomi stepped closer, tears streaking her cheeks.
Why would he say that, Braylon? What does he know that I don't?
Braylon ran a hand through his hair, something he only did when he was truly conflicted. Marcus wants to get into your head. It's what he does. He twists the truth until it sounds like poison. That doesn't answer my question. Silence. A dangerous silence. Naomi stepped back, breath trembling. You didn't just help me because of the alley. Something else pushed you. Something you haven't said. Braylon's face twisted. Guilt, frustration, protectiveness, all at war. Finally he spoke. I recognized your name, and I knew Marcus would come after you. I knew what he wanted from your family. I knew your father blocked him from the merger years ago. And when I saw you, his voice thinned. I knew you were in danger before you said a word. Naomi swallowed hard.
So you saved me because Marcus wanted me.
Braylon's voice cracked.
I saved you because you were in danger, and because someone had to.
Naomi pressed her hands to her face, struggling to breathe evenly.
I can't tell what's real anymore, she whispered. Everywhere I turn, someone wants something from me. My stepmother wants my name. Marcus wants my inheritance. The world wants a headline. And you.
She broke off, choking on the pain.
You didn't tell me everything.
Braylon stepped closer, inches from her, voice low and raw. Naomi, listen to me, he murmured. I'm on your side, all of me. I don't care about your money or your inheritance. I care about you. She shook her head, tears spilling.
How can I believe that?
He reached out to touch her shoulder, then stopped, letting her decide. She didn't move, didn't step closer, but she didn't step away either.
Let me prove it, he whispered. Let me fight for you.
Naomi closed her eyes.
Braylon, I don't know if I can trust you.
The words hit him harder than a blade. He took one slow step back, giving her space.
I understand.
She heard the restraint in his voice, the hurt, the patience. But before she could say another word, a sound broke the air. Crack, metal, glass. Naomi jumped. Braylon reacted instantly, pulling her behind him as the side window shattered inwards. Something clattered across the floor, a small metal cylinder. Naomi didn't know what it was. Braylon did.
Tear gas, he said sharply.
Naomi, run! The door burst open. Footsteps thundered inside. Voices, masks, shadows. Naomi grabbed Braylon's hand, but he shoved her toward the hallway. Go! He shouted. Hide! Now! She ran, blindly, terrified, heart pounding so loud it drowned everything else out. Behind her, shattering noise, a crash, a struggle. Braylon's voice, furious, guttural, fighting. Naomi reached the end of the hallway and ducked into the small laundry room, slamming the door shut. She pressed her hand over her mouth to keep from screaming. Men's voices echoed through the house. Check every room. Marcus wants her alive. Pierce is downstairs. Keep him busy. Naomi's body shook violently. They came for her. They found her. She had dragged Braylon into the fire. And now, they were going to destroy everything. A loud crash made her flinch. Then the unmistakable, terrifying sound of, "Got her!" The door ripped open. Hands grabbed her, and Naomi's scream cut through the night. Naomi's scream echoed through the house before the masked men even dragged her down the hallway. Her heels scraped against the floor as she fought, twisting, kicking, clawing at their arms. "Let me go!" Her voice cracked. Her heart thundered. Her terror filled every corner of the room, but the grip on her arms didn't loosen. One of them pressed a cloth to her face, trying to smother her panic. "Stop fighting," he hissed. "Never." Her voice broke, but her will didn't. Suddenly, a roar shook the room. Get your hands off her! Braylon. He came out of nowhere. Bloody, furious, unstoppable. He slammed into one of the men, knocking him through a piece of furniture. The second man dragged Naomi back, using her as a shield. Touch her, Braylon growled, and you die. Naomi had never heard his voice like that. Low, dangerous. A promise. A real promise. The man tightened his grip around her neck. Marcus wants the girl, he spat. Move, Pierce, or... He didn't finish. The lights outside the windows flashed red and blue. Sirens. Dozens of them. Someone had already called the police. The man cursed and shoved Naomi toward the back door, desperate to escape before officers stormed the house. But Naomi wasn't that helpless girl from the alley anymore. The moment his grip loosened, she elbowed him in the ribs with everything she had. The man gasped, and she ran. Straight toward the front of the house, straight toward Braylon. He met her in 2 long strides, grabbed her shoulders, pulled her behind him, shielding her as law enforcement poured in. Drop your weapons! Get down now! The remaining intruders fled through shattered windows, sprinting into the woods as police chased after them. Naomi clung to Braylon's arm, shaking so hard she couldn't stop. But she was alive. He was alive. They both were. Minutes later, the house swarmed with officers, paramedics, and flashing lights. Broken glass littered the floors. The smell of tear gas hung heavy in the air. Naomi sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, refusing to let go of Braylon's hand. An officer approached. Ma'am, we identified the men who broke in. One of them is connected to Vivian Carter. Naomi's blood ran cold. She swallowed hard, her voice barely a whisper. My stepmother tried to kill me. The officer nodded solemnly. She's being arrested right now. Naomi buried her face in her hands. It was over. Finally over. The lies, the abuse, the manipulation, the fear. Vivian couldn't touch her again. And Marcus. The officer had more news. Hale escaped the scene, he said. But the FBI is issuing a warrant. The board has already voted to freeze his assets. Braylon's fingers tightened gently around Naomi's. He leaned down. It's done, he whispered. You're safe. Naomi lifted her head. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Not from fear this time, but relief so strong it almost knocked her over. She looked at Braylon, really looked at him. The bruises along his jaw, the cuts on his knuckles, the exhaustion in his eyes. You fought for me, she whispered. You didn't have to. But you did. Braylon cupped her face, wiping a tear with his thumb. I'd fight for you again, he said softly. Every time, every day, until you never have to be afraid again. Naomi's breath hitched. The world around them blurred. The flashing lights, the chaos, the officers moving like shadows. None of it mattered. Only him. Only this moment. She rested her forehead against his chest, letting herself breathe for the first time in what felt like forever. Braylon held her the way no one ever had. Firm, steady, protective, present. After a long moment, Naomi lifted her head. What happens now? She whispered. Braylon brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Now, he said softly. You live. Naomi blinked, confused. Live? Yes, Braylon murmured. Not survive. Live. With freedom. With peace. With choices that are finally yours. She looked down at their hands intertwined. Small. Simple. Real. And us? She asked quietly. Braylon smiled. A slow, unguarded smile she had never seen from him. That, he said, is up to you. Naomi's heart swelled. For the first time in her life, the future didn't terrify her. It waited for her. She leaned into him, her voice steady. Then stay, she whispered. Stay with me. His arms wrapped around her, warm and certain. I'm not going anywhere, he said. For the first time in days, the first time in years, Naomi Carter felt safe. Not because of walls, not because of money, not because of protection, but because she finally had someone who would never let her face the darkness alone. And for two broken heirs of legacies built on power, that was enough to start over. Together.